Namaskar. Welcome to Conversations with Rakesh. I have a very exciting question today. Rakesh, I'm very clumsy and I know that I make terrible first impressions. Any tips on how I can make a better first impression? Uh, you know, First impressions are a very weird concept that does happen. And to put things in perspective, it usually happens when there's a selection process. So there's a job interview, and in our country, we have these mega heavy duty exams which millions of people write. And then after the shortlist, there's an interview, and the shortlist list is still millions of people. And the second thing is the dating environment where there is a selection process as well. Now, I'm not an expert in that environment, so I'm going to focus on the professional side, a job interview, or some situation where first impressions count. And usually it's a selection process or some sort of a process where everybody's trying to win something and the judges have to make some kind of a decision. And in that, first impressions is a concept which does come into picture. Now, be aware of this that the foundations of first impressions, let's not worry about right and wrong. It's a highly judgmental process. Philosophically, it is not the right thing to do, but we human beings are like that. Why are we like that? Because there's a concept called stereotyping, where we look at something or someone and quickly interpret and make judgment out of that person. And there is this amazing ad, Tata's, I think it was Tanishq or Tata's group, some product of Tata group, which did an amazing ad where there's a selection committee of promotions. And they're all discussing who are the good candidates who are deserving of a promotion. And one name comes Kiran. And Kiran is always with the boss. Kiran is very hardworking. Kiran and the boss are seen together all the time. And the selection committee is making a judgment that Kiran always with the boss, always together, and the boss is recommending for promotion. Kuch to gadbad hai, and they quickly make an assumption that there is some gender issue here. And then the committee very sarcastically says कि चलो भाई किरण को बुलाओ, and the door opens and Kiran is a man, and their eyes fall and they're ashamed of themselves. Stereotyping happens. You can't stop it. It happens more when there is a time constraint. You have to quickly come to the decision based on what you see, and you use intuition. And we know that intuition is not the most efficient way of making decisions. There are books written on it. Daniel Kahneman's Nobel Prize and Amos Tversky's book came from that. And we know that it's very irrational, it is very inefficient, but we always, actually most of the times, use intuitions and what we see to make a quick judgment. There's another great book by Malcolm Gladwell called Talking to Strangers, where he argues that we human beings actually sometimes trust people a lot more than what we should. And there are bad cases of how that trust can be broken and how we quickly use judgment based on color, language, caste, sex, and then make a false decision. So please remember that you are entering a judgment process, a selection process. Everybody wants that job. You have to go through your first impression problem, and stereotyping happens the moment you walk in. So there is nothing you can do, liberate yourself from it. That your problem is not to control the outcome. Your problem is to be aware that it happens. How you behave in the first few seconds will count for first impressions, and that could result in stereotyping, that could result in an unfavorable discussion or a debate with you. This is part of the process. So liberate yourself from that. So that is one big problem that I want you to know, that it is a selection process. There's a time factor, there's a stress factor, and you are now entering it and hating that process because it's a judgmental process. But guess what? That's how it works. Embrace it. I'll think you'll do better if you accept it. Now let's go to the second big problem of this process, and I want to demystify. Many of us feel that if I enter a room, and I'm very clumsy, that's what you asked me a question. I'm very clumsy. I may enter and bungle things up. And my first impression is bad. I'm dead. This is not true. There are lots of examples I can give where you enter the room, bungle things up, but then recover and change the perception and the impression. That is possible. And the best example was in these shows where people come and show their talent. I think it's UK's Got Talent, India's Got Talent. I think it was UK's Got Talent. And there is this tough guy called Simon and group of judges, and they are, one by one people come, and there is this middle-aged woman. Her name is Susan Boyle, and she comes in, and everybody is booing because she doesn't look like a talented singer from any angle. Her dress is very old-fashioned. Her presence is, not even close to being a singer. You could just ignore the person and walk away. And she comes on stage and makes some strange remarks, and everybody's like, what will she do? And then she chooses a song, which is a very difficult song. And everybody's first impressions is reject. And then she starts to sing. And the eyes of everybody, including Simon, they're like, wow, what hit us? And they select her. And she went on to become the runner-up that year. She was the hot contender for the UK's Got Talent final award, but she came second. And you should remember one thing, that first impressions happen, but they are not the end of the road. You can change them. And that's where your talent, that's where many other things come in. You can change perceptions of people who stereotype us, judge us. It's about how you behave in front of them. So now let me give you some few tips on how you can manage this process better. Tip number one. It is very important for you to know that your body is uncomfortable at that process. It's a nervous problem. It's a selection process. There's performance anxiety. There are all kinds of anxiety. Maybe you have social anxiety as well. You don't like people judging you. Everything combined, bheja fry. Your body is all over the place. So you need to calm down. You need to acclimatize. There's a term called acclimatizing. Our body is a very strong instrument. It needs time to adjust to the environment. You're going into a very stressful environment. Give it some time. So before you enter the room, calm down. Breathe, go to some place, listen to some music, whatever calms you down, do that. And when you enter, don't be in a hurry to make first impressions. Give it few seconds, 3, 4, 5 seconds, just calm down. Let the body acclimatize to the new environment, because you need all the support at that point of time. So tip number one, get your body to relax a little bit and calm down. Tip number two, I cannot emphasize this. This is where there are debates going on about dressing. Now, I know that it's a concept which has kind of gone all over the place, that, hey, my clothes are my business, not yours. I get it, but not in a selection phase. I think that's where judgment comes in. So please dress according to the occasion. Please dress what's appropriate. You decide based on your body, skin color, tone color, whatever, the culture, context, you decide. But dress appropriately and as nicely as you can. I cannot tell you the wonder of a good dress and the impression a good dress makes on you. I'm not saying that you all buy the most expensive clothes. I don't mean that. I think my point is very simple. Please dress well and please invest in yourself. This is the whole first impressions and executive presence. And dress consistently. ऐसा नहीं कि आज interview है तो you go in your Sunday best. I think you should always be at your best behavior, because this is the on-stage dynamic I teach in my classes, that once you are out of your den, you're on stage. Doesn't matter if in front of your mothers or job recruiters. You have to be on stage and you have to behave consistently and dress appropriately. So please dress well. The person at the selection committee looks and observes, and these things matter. Number 3, your confidence. This is where there's a fantastic concept called Mr. Bean. Now, Mr. Bean's body movements and mannerisms look like the dork and the clumsy and the strange person character that Mr. Bean, Rowan Atkinson, played, and everything is about that look. But if you look at Johnny English, which is a very comical movie, in that, the way he enters, which is very funny in its own way, is full of confidence. James Bond, full of confidence. If you look at people coming inside the room, it's about their body and it's about their way they carry themselves. And your confidence comes from your body and your walk and the way you sit and the way you respond, even your voice. So please get that right. First impressions is about your face, smile, eye contact, voice, and posture. So get these four things right. If you do that, a very good first impression is created. Now comes the most important part. Once these few seconds are done, that you have settled down, you have gotten your dress, everything right, and your confidence is projected. Now comes your content. So please speak properly and listen properly. This is where your mannerisms come in. How do you carry yourself throughout this process? And that's again first impressions because it can change. And the last point is think of it like a performance. If tell yourself that I'm going on stage, I'm going to perform and I'm going to do my best. I'll make mistakes, but I'll recover from it. If you have these mindsets, and let me summarize these 5 tips for you all over again. 1, please get your body to calm down before you enter. And when you enter, give it a few seconds to acclimatize to this situation. It's a tremendous amount of stress. There's a performance anxiety. So give it some time. Number 2, dress appropriately. Number 3, get your confidence right, which is your posture, your smile, your eye contact, and your voice. That is very, very critical. So the first 10 seconds are good. Then you start your mannerisms, your conversations, your verbals, your non-verbals, talking, listening. That will create some impression. Good, bad, we don't know, but it adds up. And the last is tell yourself that I'm performing and liberate yourself from the mistakes. When you make a mistake, move on, say sorry. And this is how you could manage your first impressions. First impressions are dangerous, but that doesn't mean that you leave an impression for life. You can change it. So don't take it as a blow on your life कि मर गए, first impression खराब हो गया, I'm dead. No, it doesn't matter. You can create a positive first impression and then negative afterwards. And you can create a clumsy negative first impression and make it positive very quickly. It's all in your hands. It's all about how you communicate, present, think, and behave in front of that person. So on that note, have a great day ahead and stay safe.